After nearly 2 decades, Mistborn Era 1 is on the New York Times bestseller list for the first time. And so naturally, people are asking, why is Mistborn on the New York Times bestseller list for the first time? And should it be the next epic high fantasy series that I read? My name is Sarah, and I love fantasy books. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about what makes Mistborn Era 1 different from a lot of high fantasy epics that are out there, and the answer might surprise you. When people talk about Mistborn, they usually bring up the twists, the wild reveals, or the iconic magic system made of coins and metals, which involves flying through the air. And don't get me wrong, those things are excellent, but they're not what make Mistborn unforgettable. Let's get into why Mistborn is so unique, the themes that make it an enduring classic, and how 4 characters push these themes forward. I'm going to start spoiler-free, diving into who the characters are and their motivations, and then I'm going to give you a clear warning before I dive into the full arcs of these characters. All right, so Vin is our entry point into this world. When we meet Vin, she trusts no one, and for good reason. Vin's entire survival has been predicated on her ability to hide literally everything about herself, from her family identity, to her gender, to her strange gifts that we begin to see developing in the first few pages of the novel. Mistborn slowly becomes the story of how Vin learns to even just at first hope that life could be more than just survival. Because in so many ways, the theme of hope is what makes Mistborn very unique. Through trust and through love, Vin begins to discover her true identity, but before she can do that, she has to learn to hope that life could be different than what she's known before. And this brings us to Kelsier. Kelsier is larger than life, he is reckless, he is charismatic, and he is very defiant. But that defiance is grounded in hope. Hope that an act of rebellion can ripple out and change the world, that one life can mean everything for everybody else. Now we have Elend, and Elend in a lot of ways embodies what I think is the second primary theme of Mistborn. Elend's journey is about identity. When we first meet him, we don't know who Elend is, and neither does Elend. Is he a dreamer? Is he a scholar? Is he a rich nobleman? What defines him? For Elend, the heart of his journey is about learning to believe his hope that who he is, a hope that in discovering his identity, he can make life better for the people around him. And my favorite, Sazed. When we are introduced to Sazed, he seems very grounded. He is quiet, he is patient, an incredible keeper of knowledge. And on the surface, he looks very stable. His life is built around his faith and in the scholarship surrounding that. But I think his story asks one of the deepest questions in Mistborn. What does it mean to build your identity on faith? And can faith and the hope that surrounds and nourishes that faith survive despair? So even without spoilers, you can start to see a pattern for these characters. Each of them is searching for identity, and each of them uses hope to find that identity in different ways. From here on out, I will have spoilers for the entirety of Mistborn Era 1. So if you haven't finished Hero of Ages, make sure that you save this video so that you can come back and we can discuss it later. So let's start back again with Vin. Vin's identity really is the heart of this series. In a lot of ways, you could say that Mistborn is about Vin's transformation. So her identity initially is rooted in mistrust, and again, for good reason. Vin's mistrust is what has allowed her to literally stay alive. But I love how in Mistborn, little by little, we see that she allows herself to hope. She hopes that Kelsier is different. She hopes that Elend can love her for who she really is, even though she's different from anything else that he has known. She hopes that she can protect people, that she can love them and be loved by them without being used by them. By the end of the series, Vin's identity is completely reshaped. She is someone who trusts, who loves, who can hope enough to give her life for the future of the world. One of my favorite things about Mistborn is that her sacrifice did not feel tragic. It felt hopeful. She was with Elend, the girl who had gone from hiding in the shadows, had journeyed to believing that she was capable not only of creating happiness for the people around her, but for experiencing it for herself. Vin and Elend were together forever. They were happy. And that transformation really ties together these themes of identity and hope. And in Vin, we got to see the culmination of it. Kelsier identifies himself as the survivor. His entire identity is built on rebellion, on refusing to let the world crush him. But what I think makes Kelsier unforgettable from a lot of other morally gray heroes is that he is fueled by hope. Even Kelsier's death isn't the end of his identity, because while he becomes more than a man, a larger-than-life figure of hope for the Ska, Kelsier also embodies for his followers that frailty and humanness are in many ways the point of this rebellion. By embracing his own death, Kelsier's vulnerability became a rallying point for his followers and for the Ska. If someone as great as Kelsier was willing to die, then so could they. And that vulnerability embodied so much of what was valuable about life. Kelsier's legacy truly outlives him. His presence echoes throughout the entire series, really emphasizing that his identity wasn't just about who he was when he was alive, but about the hope that he left behind. When we meet Elend, he is the awkward nobleman that fits in literally nowhere. In many ways, Elend is kind of a caricature. He's a White Tower scholar who is consumed with his books, his ideas, his dreams for a better world. But when those ideals clash with war, with politics, with the world, with the woman that he loves, he has to ask himself, who am I really? In Elend's journey, his identity does feel very uncertain at first. He goes back and forth because he's trying to figure out, am I a ruler pretending to be a scholar, or a scholar who is pretending to be a ruler? And how does my warrior identity fit in with any of those? But through his relationship with Ven and the weight of many decisions, Elend learns to weave all three together. Elend is an incredibly powerful character because I think he's one of the few that literally never abandons hope. Even in the worst circumstances, he never lets his ideals die. In fact, this is what wins them the battle at the very end of Hero of Ages. Elend is different in that he does not become ruthless in the face of overwhelming odds. He maintains his resolutions. And in the end, his sacrifice mirrors Ven's. He sacrifices himself, he sacrifices the life of his soldiers because he hopes that it could mean something. He believes that there's a world that can be better. And now we have Sazed, my favorite character in Mistborn. When we are introduced to Sazed, he seems incredibly stable, and I think Sazed believes he's stable. He is a keeper. He knows every religion that there ever has been. His identity is wrapped up in faith. Not in one religion, but in hundreds, maybe thousands. Sazed loves hope. He carries it like a treasure. He offers it to other people in their darkest moments. And then when Tindwyl dies, I think that identity really shatters for Sazed. Sazed's hope is taken away, and suddenly he realizes that all of these religions feel static and empty. They feel like words on a paper. Without the hope behind religions, they really are nothing. What I love about Sazed's arc, though, is that he really shows us that faith is not static. Faith, like an identity, as an identity, is alive. It changes in response to what happens around us. Sazed falls into despair because he thinks that his old faiths have failed him. And in a way, they really have. And what has to happen is that Sazed is broken down so that something new, something more stable can grow. Sazed learns that faith isn't about certainty. Faith is about other people. That faith is in himself, but by placing it in hope, in the love that he has for the people around him, it's possible when everything else seems dark. This is why Sazed's identity as the hero of ages feels so earned. Sazed doesn't become Harmony because he somehow found the right religion that would answer every question that he ever had. He becomes Harmony because he understands that faith and truth and hope are not static, but they are rooted and grounded in a person. His faith is about beauty. It is about love. It's about living through contradiction, about pushing through your despair when it seems impossible. Sazed's identity is not reborn of knowledge, but as living hope. I think when we step back, what we see is that Mistborn is unique among fantasy epics because it isn't about rebellion, it isn't about magic, it isn't about destiny. It is about identity shaped by hope. How we figure out who we are, how we keep going when everything seems broken. Hope is not the background here. Hope is the engine of the story. Hope is what pushes these characters to rebuild themselves again and again. Ven finds identity through trust, and hope gives her the courage to love. Kelsier built his identity on defiance, but it is hope that makes his legacy endure, because of, not in spite of, his vulnerabilities. Elend becomes a leader by holding on to hope even in the middle of war, and Sazed shows us that faith, like identity, is not static. It is living, it is breathing, and it is always built on hope. This is what makes Mistborn unforgettable, and I think this is why you should read it. It is not about twists and magic system, it's about the incredibly powerful threads of hope that bind all of us together. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit subscribe. I'm currently reading through the Cosmere, and I love to do deep dives on my favorite epic fantasy series. I'm planning next time on talking about Warbreaker and my favorite Sander launch of all time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.